What's up guys, it's Manga Time once again. I'm here today to bring you my review of Bleach 565 Godlike You. This is the second video because the first one had some sound issues, I don't know why, and it's pretty annoying. But yeah. So, the chapter starts off, and this is a really interesting chapter. It's a random chapter, and it's placed kind of randomly into the story. Like, we've just had about 5 chapters of Master Masculine fighting. Pretty non-stop. And so I initially thought that this chapter was a continuation of that, but it's not. And it's just placed randomly. But you kind of do get a reasoning for that later on. The chapter starts off with there's this baby, and apparently he can't see, can't hear, can't speak, and can't even move. And they had nothing that could help them survive, yet somehow they knew they would survive anyway. So that's interesting because, you know, apparently the baby can't cry because it knows it can survive. So I think that's really interesting. This is kind of funny though, because at this point I thought this baby was Master Masculine. I was like, what? What is this baby, some godlike figure or something? But no, it's not Master Masculine. It's more interesting than that. But the people around the baby like revere him. Because apparently if they touch him, if they have ailments, they'll be healed. Very kind of like Jesus, I think. So for example, if they touch this baby, like if they were missing a limb, it would come back. But not only that, it also does kind of psychological things as well. Like cowards would find courage, and lonely people would have their hearts filled. So this baby is like some godlike figure, and apparently it has the power to distribute their soul. So when someone touches the baby, that person gets a part of the baby's soul. And so a wound that wasn't able to heal on its own now can. But basically, everything that the person inherits by doing this goes into this piece of the soul, and when that person dies, it goes back to the baby. Right? So it is quite a long-winded description, this backstory, but it's, you know, momentously important. So when it goes back to the baby takes with it everything that it gave out, I think. Now, interestingly, apparently the ones who touched the baby didn't last very long. About a few years, a few months, some would even die in a few days. So this makes me wonder, you know, was the baby killing people? Obviously not getting up and killing people, but like, is it some kind of subconscious thing? Are the deaths of these people actually linked to them getting healed by this baby? Could be, I think. But I mean, it's interesting because obviously when these people die, the baby gets their power. It kind of bestowed upon them. So, was it doing it for itself? Like, was it kind of killing these people to get the power back? Possibly. But apparently every time a piece of the soul went back to the baby, like it was able to start moving, its eyes were starting to open. And apparently when it was able to hear, it heard its name. Or at least it heard the name of the god that was being revered at the time, and it took the name for itself. Yhwach. Okay? And then we see, oh my god, it's Tensei Zangetsu. Now this is interesting, because quite a lot of people have been saying, you know, if old man Zangetsu is Yhwach 1,000 years ago, does that mean Tensei Zangetsu is him when he's a teenager? And yes, apparently it does. However, there is one thing I don't think makes sense unless I'm missing something. And what that is Tensei Zangetsu. No, okay. If Old Man Zangetsu is really not Ichigo Zanpakuto, if he is not its representation, then why did he change form? Because Ichigo entered during his Bankai. That was the whole thing. The whole reason Tensei Zangetsu was some young kid is because Ichigo went into his inner world in his Bankai for the first ever time. But if this bloke actually isn't Ichigo Zanpakuto, then there's no reason he should have changed when Ichigo went in a different form. There is no reason he should have changed. It should have been Hollow Ichigo. And he had the new mask, but that was due to the hollow, not due to the fact that he went in Bankai. Having said that, if I remember correctly, Hollow Ichigo is wearing Ichigo's Bankai clothes at that point. He's no longer in the Shikai Shihakusho. So that could be it. That could be the change. And Zangetsu could possibly just change his form at will to keep up the lie. That's kind of all I can really think. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's difficult to say whether that's. I'm not going to say it's a plot hole, but yeah. I mean, Kubo's doing well. He basically had to choose between keeping it consistent with Yhwach's timeline of the old man Zangetsu or Ichigo's timeline. And he chose Yhwach's, and I think it was a good thing to do that. I think it works. But I'm glad we kind of have confirmation on this because the whole Tensa Zangetsu thing has been one of the things that have really been thrown up in the air ever since this Zangetsu revelation. And like I pointed out, I still don't think it's completely answered, but at least we have a little bit now. Then we actually go back to Yhwach and he's asleep, and he's in his throne. Is it me or is his throne like it's floating? But this is interesting. He's either in a different place now, or Kubo's decided to randomly change the design. Because now there's loads of battlements in front of him. But originally there were loads of huge pillars. I'm sure there were. Although he might actually even be in a different throne now as well. So, yeah. Okay, then he says, did James die? You can come back, well done. Now, what I think he means by this, I've seen a lot of people debating this on the forums. I don't think it's as confusing as what people are making it out to be. I think all it is Yhwach is talking to Master Masculine here. He's saying, did James die? Alright, you can come back then. Because if James is dead, there's no way Master Masculine can be revived. So what Yhwach's doing is, he's talking to Mask and he's saying, your spirit can return to me now. Which it does. And so Yhwach gets Master Masculine's power that he gave to him and comes back into Yhwach. Does that mean Yhwach now has the power of Superstar? Yeah, possibly. With this whole revelation that when a Stonemeter dies, their power comes back to Yhwach, I'm thinking maybe his A stands for the All, or something like that. Or the All Father, that'd be kind of cool, but something like that. I'm not entirely sure, though. However, we then go to Silburn. Well, we're already in Silburn, but we go to another part of Silburn. We see Uryu, and he's headed towards Yhwach's chambers, but he gets stopped by Haschwalth. Now, this is great, this scene, because Haschwalth gets Uryu on his own, basically, and you really finally get to see the animosity he truly feels towards him. You get to see... Because obviously Haschwalth has to keep up appearances around the other Stonemeter and around Yhwach, but when it's just these two, Haschwalth is not happy with Uryu one bit. Now, basically, Haschwalth tells Uryu that no one can disturb Yhwach's sleep, because when he's asleep, it becomes the father of the Quincy again. Now, what I think that means is it means that's when Yhwach can connect with the Quincy again. But I love this bit, because Uryu clearly doesn't like Haschwalth very much either, or at least he's attempting to kind of impose the whole successor role. Because he's like, why should I tell you what I need to ask His Majesty? But Haschwalth says something rather curious. He says that Yhwach and him are on two different sides of the scale, obviously the balance thing again. But he says, while His Majesty becomes the father of the Quincy, I am given the mask of the ruler. Now, I don't think that should be taken literally. What I think he means by that is, while Yhwach's asleep, Haschwalth's in charge. That's basically what I think that means. And Haschwalth says that all Quincy are connected to Yhwach, and he says that I can tell you about this. And I love this bit, because there is so much hate here. He's like, since you're the next successor. You can tell he says that with some real spite in his voice, and even Uryu looks at him like, oh, bring it on. Bring it on. I know you don't like me, but frankly, I don't like you either. And that's really cool. I like that. I think it's done really well. Great panel. Then we get some more backstory on Yhwach. It kind of repeats everything we've seen, except he's a teenager now. Interestingly, in the background behind Yhwach, there is an icy kind of bridge. So, I don't know, I mean, like, why is... Unless Yhwach comes from some ice palace, but I don't know. Also, something else I'd like to bring up quickly before we move on. The kind of vegetative state that Yhwach was born in, to me, I reckon that's probably the seal that he eventually ended up in again. So somehow Yamamoto was able to reduce him to that state where he can't hear, he can't see, he can't do anything. And Haschwalth, he stole all the souls back again, and that allowed him to revive and become what he is again now. So, this explains why he killed Luders and Ivan. It explains why he blew up Lloydroid before Lloyd died, because all their powers will return to him. So yeah, now we go on to the next part of Yhwach's backstory. Haschwalth reminds us that all Quincy's can collect reishi from their surroundings, but Yhwach is the only one who can give it out. Now, I hope he can also take reishi from his surroundings, otherwise it's going to be slightly disappointing. I think he can, since he manipulated the throne into a staircase. So I think he probably can do it. But yeah. He then discovered that he was able to give people their powers by engraving the initial of the power onto someone's soul. So that's what he's doing to the Sturmitor. That's what the Schrift is. He, like, say for Asnot, he's going to give Az the power of fear, so he engraves an F on Az's soul. So the Schrift is actually, it's more than just, like a title or a rank. It's actually a part of them now. And when they die, that Schrift basically returns to Yhwach. So Uryu's kind of shocked by this, and this is one of my favourite bits of the chapter. He's like, how can you do that? And Haschwalth tells Uryu, rather candidly, I think, that, you drank His Majesty's blood. That's kind of vampiric. But also allusions again to the whole Jesus reference. And, he's like, you've already been part of this ritual, and Uryu's really shocked. And Haschwalth slams his hand on the wall, and this is great, because Haschwalth's obviously picked up on the fact that Uryu's not too happy about the fact that he was basically tricked. And so Haschwalth's like, what are those eyes? Do you regret it? But it's too late. So, Haschwalth's very suspicious of Uryu, and now that it's just the two of them alone, Haschwalth's able to get these suspicions out without any backlash from Yhwach, basically. And he's like, Haschwalth basically confirms what everyone knew, is that, he says, I reckon you only accepted our invite to avenge your mother. But Haschwalth's like, but, as soon as you did that, you're trapped. When someone who received a part of Yhwach's soul dies, that power is automatically taken back to Yhwach. So it could be A for the absorb, but maybe not. Now, Haschwalth then says that Yhwach's soul was distributed across the battlefield in the first time they fought, which means that all the Sturmitor and all the Shinigami who kind of came into contact with Sturmitor, they are, or just Quincy in general, they are now bound by this. If they die, their power goes towards Yhwach. Now, this is pretty major revelation, actually, because it basically means that while Yhwach might not have planned all this all along, he is still benefiting from all the deaths in the war. So we've had Yamamoto, we've had Chojiro, we've had probably Kira. On the Sturmitor side, we've had like the 5 who died in the first fight, Master Masculine, possibly Bambietta, possibly Kang, BG9, because we don't know what happened to them yet. So, Yhwach is still becoming more powerful. So, Haschwalth reiterates that battles are everything to Yhwach. If he doesn't have battles, one day he'll die. Well, he won't die, he'll regress back into the vegetative state. So, that makes me wonder, maybe... Well, because I'm thinking here, back 1,000 years ago, Yamamoto had to have reduced him to this state if this is indeed the seal he was in. So does everyone just stop fighting? Because that, to me, seems like the only way to defeat him, is everyone to stop fighting. But then Yhwach would go on some killing spree anyway, so it's going to be very interesting, because according to Haschwalth, Yhwach's basically ageless otherwise, which explains how he's been alive for so long. Haschwalth basically... It's interesting, because Haschwalth kind of sounds like he thinks he's trapped as well. He's like, Yhwach will never stop fighting, there's no way out of it for me or you. Saying that everyone basically lives and dies for Yhwach. And then the sun comes over the battlements, and Haschwalth's like, morning will come, His Majesty will wake up, and a new fight will begin. Basically, morning does come, Yhwach does wake up, and he says, Let's thank the souls of the ones who died. I can still see the world clearly. That's a great line. I love it. It's cool. That's me. And Yhwach looks sinister as hell in the final panel. Really looking evil. But that line's great, and I think he means by "let's thank the souls of the ones who died." He's talking about since time began, pretty much, obviously of the people he's come into contact with, because they're keeping him going. And so day 2 of the battle begins, basically. I'm glad Kubo is kind of adhering to this whole night and day schedule, because it makes the battle feel that bit more realistic, I suppose. It's interesting to see that Master Masculine's fight spree basically took up an entire night. So yeah, now we move on to day 2. And I'm interested to see what it brings. I think we might start with Rukia. But really, I don't know. It's going to be hard to say. But this chapter has all been backstory, all been exposition. And like I said, there was a reason why Kubo decided to throw it in here, and it's because Yhwach's addressing Master Masculine as he dies. And that does make me wonder if maybe Bambietta, Kang, and BG9 are still alive, because otherwise you think Kubo might have done it beforehand. But then again, that might also be why Yhwach had them judged, so it's kind of hard to say. But I'm going to drop a 10 on this chapter. I think it was really great. I think we kind of needed this after that mask fight for so long. Just great to get another Quincy-focused chapter, although I really wanted to see some Sturmitters. But, you know, you get what you're given. And I thought it was a great chapter. I don't have a whole lot else to say. And hopefully the sound works the whole way through on this, because I ain't recording another one. So what do you guys think of this chapter? Let me know in the comments below. I don't really know what to ask for this chapter. I mean, what do you think about the whole Tensa Zangetsu thing? Am I right? Is it kind of a bit iffy still, or have I missed something? Is it even explained? You know, do you like the whole animosity between Uryu and Haschwalth? I think that could foreshadow a battle between Uryu and Haschwalth, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, that's about it though, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking this button up here, somewhere, and give the video a thumbs up. It's a great way of supporting it. Ow. And I shall see you next week, guys. But until then, see you later.